indignation against Cuba that would allow the Pentagon to wage a full-scale invasion and bombing of Cuba.
That's kind of what Anyanak was talking about, with what the CIA and the FBI was doing domestically, also to get rid of all sorts of groups. These kinds of tactics have been tried and true and are good for breaking up organizations, whether we're talking about international governments and overthrowing them, or organizations that are fighting for women's lib or Black Lives Matter or anything else. They use these kind of tactics all the time.
You mentioned COINTELPRO. This was brought out in better days of the Senate investigations did some of this in previous years, how they use agent provocateurs not only to frame up countries like Cuba or Russia or Iran or any country for crimes and human rights violations to justify the United States.
So what do you do? How do you fight it? And don't tell me get better sources of information.
Well, that's the only way.
Okay. Well, if that's the only way, then that's the only way. All right. Our number here is 866-391-1020. Believe it or not, we're about to wind this rascal on down. But before we close it out, before this next commercial break, I recall yesterday Craig from West Virginia called me and asked me to take a look at a documentary that he had talked about for some time, and it had to do with the NSA and how that naval station in West Virginia is operated and what they're listening for. And James Bamford is in it. I watched this half-hour program. And quite interesting when you look at the kinds of things that the United States government is doing in terms of surveillance. Now, the big antennas that used to be down there at this naval base in West Virginia were the kinds of things that were listening into Russian submarines years ago. But now there are a lot of smaller antennas, and Mr. Bamford and other people interviewed in the program say that is all about listening domestically. So the question becomes, are we even secure within the Fourth Amendment and our own persons about this? And when Craig brought it up before, he said, ask your brother, the Admiral, about it. And I did, and my brother said when he was Commandant of the Washington Naval Yard, that naval base was under his jurisdiction, but much more about it he could not say. So who knows what's going on there. All right, 866-391-1020, your chance to get in and comment. No more second bites of the apple. We've got 15 minutes of interesting chit-chat time left, so dial them in, and we'll talk to you after these commercial announcements.
KDKARadio.com gets you information fast. At KDKARadio.com, get the facts you need on your mobile without the navigation hassles. It's next level service. Try it now. KDKARadio.com.
Get more for your valuables by coming to Treasure Hunt. Whether you're buying or selling gold and silver jewelry or coins, diamonds, sterling silver, or collectible coins, our friendly, well-trained staff is always ready to help. No appointment necessary. Stop in today and experience the Treasure Hunt difference for yourself. Visit our website at treasurehuntjewelry.com to find one of our 10 convenient locations. Treasure Hunt. No one treats you better.
Hi there, I'm Andrew McCollum, the CEO of Philo, the best way to watch your favorite live and on-demand TV for just $25 a month. We created Philo because we saw a chance to make TV better. We got rid of everything you hate about cable: contracts, hidden fees, pricing that changes without notice, and terrible customer service. We replaced it with an unlimited DVR that lets you save as much as you want for a whole year, an easy-to-use app on all of your devices wherever you are, and 24/7 customer service that connects you right away with a real person. Did you know that in the 4 years we've been around, we've never once raised the bill on any of our subscribers? That's how we do things at Philo, because we really care about our community and are always trying to figure out how to deliver more for them. Signing up takes seconds, and once you do, hopefully you'll see what I mean. Get a 7-day free trial at philo.com/Andrew. That's philo.com/Andrew. Let me know what you think.
Real Pittsburgh Pittsburgh talk and information. 100.1 FM and AM 1020. KDKA.
KDKA Radio News Time, 8:47. I'm Chris Moore. The Moore Pittsburgh Father Ron is in the house ready to take you through the evening with Amplify. We want to remind you to watch our TV program on PCNC, the Pittsburgh Cable News Program. Our program is called Pittsburgh Now, and we feature many of the newsmakers of this area, conservative and liberal, to talk about the controversial issues of the day. It's on live at 10 a.m. every day, and if you don't have it on your cable system, you can always just watch it streaming live at 10 a.m. by going to WPXI.com. All right, our friend Ella in Texas, part of the Vast Research Bureau now, comments on something about abortion. She says, as a chaplain, I have listened to religious people who have had abortions. I found that they have not forgiven themselves and then become so judgmental and rigid in their thinking, which has nothing to do with authentic faith. Religious folk forget all about the teaching of Jesus. They do? I guess that's a statement. They do forget, huh? All right, let's go to the phones. Tom, on the south side, you're on KDKA.
Chris, I've been listening on and off most of the evening. Are you working this week?
As a matter of fact, I am. Let's see, when am I working this week? I'm working Tuesday the 3rd from 2 to 6. And Friday the 6th from 2 to 6.
I'm glad to hear it. I have one other question. I asked you, I don't know, on the air or maybe Facebook, how would we know if Mayor Gainey had gotten together with the FBI to put together a task force to get that 200 or 300 bad people off the streets?
How would we know?
Yeah. Well, my hope would be that he had done something of that order or that ilk to try and deal with the people that are causing some, or maybe even the majority of the trouble in the city. But had he done that, how would we know, or would be there any way of knowing?
Well, if he has done it, it doesn't seem to have had much effect, does it?
Well, no. I mean, if he put one together, I would imagine it would take 6 months to a year to be effective. But my sense of it is he hasn't done anything along those lines, and I would encourage him to do so, because we don't seem to be making any headway with that issue.
Okay. Well, I hope he heard your encouragement. Okay.
I hope so too.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 866-391-1020. That's our number. Craig in West Virginia. I was just talking about you.
I heard that. That's why I called in.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the 2006? Was that the one you watched, 25 minutes?
Yeah, it was 25 minutes long.
Exactly. And you know, the crazy thing of it was, I was actually there working the day that the NSA drove onto a military base and took it, and this spooks me even talking about it. I'm dead serious about that. I was there that day working when the NSA drove onto a military base and took it over. I was actually friends with the base commander, and I'm sure your brother probably knows him, and he was totally confused about the whole situation, and that's when the whole thing happened to where the Navy base was decommissioned and the NSA took over the upper base. I mean, it was pretty amazing to watch.
Well, he did write a note, and he said, when I was there, it was not a place to collect domestic information or domestic intelligence. I can't speak to what it might have morphed into over the years, but that's what the program addressed, that at first it was there to listen to Russian submarine traffic. And that would make sense as a Navy base and all that they did about a quiet zone where you couldn't have that kind of interference and they could get clean signals in there. But according to Banford, all of that has changed.
I'm going to tell you, I kid you not. I worked there for 6 years, early 2000s, and I know, you know, you're out at the officers club and you're sitting with these people and you're having adult beverages and, you know, they get a little loose-lipped. You know, I've met some scary people in this country, and America has no clue what is happening around them. It truly, truly is unbelievable when you hear these people talk about what they do on a daily basis. It really
lips sink ships, don't they say that all the time?
Exactly, and this is, you know, this place is like a NORAD. You know, there's 3 levels underground. You know, when they brought in them small satellite dishes, that's when it started going from international to domestic. And, you know, you saw the video, and it's really happening on a daily basis.
You know, I have been talking about this kind of stuff ever since they instituted the Patriot Act. Now, you have brought this information to me about this naval base, but it's been a known fact ever since they instituted the Patriot Act that they have been collecting what they call metadata on all of us. And as they pointed out, I think in this program, they can sweep up all kinds of data, but how can they look at it if they don't have the analysts to look at it? And there's certain things that attract their attention if you're saying this. So they might have phone calls that we've made to our girlfriends or boyfriends that you wouldn't want to be exposed about. But if you're not doing anything about it, they're not coming after you.
Well, you know, like that gentleman said, he said, I think the number was like 13. There were 13 analysts in the country that can even decipher that information.
Right, yeah.
You know, but here's the thing. I've always said this, and I hate to make a hard left turn here, but when they talk about all the phone calls that were made during January 6th committee, I am telling you right now, 100% certainty. They know whether it was McCarthy, whether it was Donald Trump, making those phone calls to the Proud Boys. These guys have the capability to pick up. I was actually told, now, whether it's true or not, sitting there drinking a couple of adult cocktails, they were able to listen into the cockpits of the planes on 9/11. They have that capability.
What?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. They have that capability. You know, I'm just saying.
You know, I think some things are stranger than fiction, you know?
Well, yeah, you know, 6 years, and I was actually happy when I left there. I was actually getting a little squeamish about being around those type of people. I really was.
Well, I'm glad you got to know them and not me, okay?
So I'm going to leave with this. You know, if you happen to look out your window tomorrow and there's black cars with black hubcaps on it and guys look like men in black, I apologize up front.
Well, you know, I made fun once of that when the Army was doing some exercises and KDKA's offices were downtown by the 10th Street bypass, and you could hear helicopters going up the river, and we were looking out the windows trying to find them and couldn't spot them. And then there was a whole hullabaloo. The phone started ringing, and they were going crazy. And then the next day they said it was weather balloons. No, I'm kidding. They didn't say weather balloons. They said it was just the Army conducting exercises. And everybody wanted to know what the exercises were for. And I'm trying to remember if they even told them or not, tell you the truth.
And they ended up shutting that Navy base down. And I actually think it's some type of drug rehab situation now.
Wow.
Yeah, I still get Christmas cards from the people that work there. I got probably 7 this year from the people that work there, and that's from the early 2000s. But yeah, until you sit with these people and hear what they say, you really can't even wrap your head around it.
All right. Thank you, Craig.
All right, Chris.
All right. Take care.
You too, bud.
All right. We're beginning a new year. This is the first day of that new year. And there's so many platitudes that people issue about health and happiness. No one knows what the new year will bring. My brothers and I were just discussing this about friends and classmates who are passing on. As I said, I'm going to 2 funerals on Monday, tomorrow. And so we don't know what the future will bring. And I don't know what to wish for you. In fact, I'm not a big believer in wishing, to tell you the truth. I recall last year sitting here on New Year's Eve and hoping and praying that things would be different when it came to wars, when it came to mass shootings or individual murders or anything else. And 2022 was another year of more of the same. And I expect that now. But for you and your family, I hope you will somehow escape it. I hope you will live long and prosper and be the best that you can be. All right, I'm out of here until Tuesday and Friday, 2 to 6. I'm Chris Moore. Thanks for being with us. Good night, everyone.
It's the KDKA Radio Allegheny Health Network Sports Medicine Super 7. Friday nights live on KDKA Radio. And now, through January 7th, we're set to honor the best players in the WPIAL and Pittsburgh City League. It's the KDKA Radio Allegheny Health Network Sports Medicine Super 7. Vote early. Vote often. Let your voice be heard at KDKARadio.com.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Did you know that now you can listen to all your favorite stations, including this one, shows, and even podcasts, all on the Odyssey app? Download it now.
KDKA and KDKA FM HD2 Pittsburgh, W261AX Pittsburgh.
Always live on the free Odyssey app. From the Aetna Medicare Advantage Studios.
Pittsburgh's news, weather, and traffic station. News Radio, KDKA. This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Facet Wealth.
I'm Wendy Gillette in New York. 2 people were killed in heavy flooding in California, 1 in Sacramento County. Public Information Officer Matt Robinson.
A person was found deceased who had been trying to drive through the water.
Climate scientist Matthew Capucci on the unusual weather patterns.
This kind of bears resemblance to something we saw last year in Sacramento. They went about 212 days with no rainfall whatsoever during the winter of 2020 to 2021. Then suddenly they had one day, the next day after that streak, with 5.46 inches of rain, their wettest day on record. So literally from famine to feast. And that's just kind of how it is these days.
The big debate in the financial world is if there will be a recession this year.
Michael Gapin, the chief economist at Bank of America, doesn't seem very optimistic.
The risk of recession is high.
On CBS's Face the Nation, Gapin said that's because the economy's rapid recovery from the pandemic led to inflation.
And the Federal Reserve is trying to slow down the economy to bring inflation down. And in the past, more often than not, that's coincided with some sort of recession.
Linda Kenyon, CBS News, Washington.
A man attacked 3 New York City police officers with a machete about 8 blocks from Times Square last night. Investigators are trying to determine if the 19-year-old suspect was inspired by radical Islamic extremism. WCBS reporter Christina Fan has more.
One of the officers under attack fired their service weapon, hitting the suspect in the shoulder. At a press conference overnight, the mayor praised the NYPD's actions.
And we're really pleased by the response and how our officers handled this situation. All 3 of the officers are in stable conditions, and there are no credible threats to New Yorkers at this time.
The FBI, NYPD, and Joint Terrorism Task Force are now investigating to determine the motive behind the attack.
As the Russian war with Ukraine nears almost a year, former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster said on CBS's Face the Nation, Russian President Vladimir Putin is not in a good position.
He's a man who's always been obsessed with restoring Russia to national greatness, and he fancied himself as the new czar presiding over an expanding Russian empire. Well, he's failed utterly, but he's increasingly isolated.
Stocks ended the year on Friday like 2022 in the red. The Dow dropped 74 points, the S&P 500 lost 10 points, and the Nasdaq finished 12 points lower. Last year marked the worst for stocks since 2008. This is CBS News.
Facet Wealth is an SEC-registered investment advisor. They offer customized financial planning for you, not just your assets. Learn more by calling 888-598-3966.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Therapy dogs are helping out in a new way at one university.
For the first time in more than a decade, monthly premiums for 59 million retirees will decrease. Medicare Part B, which covers doctor visits and other outpatient care not covered by Part A, will decline 3% to $164.90. The annual deductible for Medicare Part B will decline from $233 to $226. Vaccines covered under Part D, including the expensive shingles shot, will require no copays or deductibles. Christopher Cruz, CBS News, Washington.
The founding drummer for the band Modest Mouse has died. The band, known for songs like Flo Diane, had just announced Jeremiah Green had been diagnosed with cancer. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. Now that we have started a new year, think about ways you can help the environment. First, make the switch to green soaps and personal products and green cleaning products for the sink and shower. Use towels made from materials like organic cotton. And finally, make the switch to LED lights, which can last for many years and use very little power. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Your source for official traffic information. Hear it on News Radio KDKA.
Grab your cowboy hat and strap on those boots because Yellowstone is back. And good news, partner. Philo is the most affordable way to watch the new season. What's Philo, you ask? Well, I reckon it's the best darn way to watch 60-plus channels of live and on-demand TV. Get all your favorites like MTV, VH1, AMC, Discovery, Paramount Network, Nickelodeon, and more, all for just $25 a month. You can watch Philo with your laptop, tablet, phone, or TV and stream 3 devices at a time. It even lets you create multiple profiles. So, unlike those rowdy Duttons, you and your family can keep the peace and never have to fight over what to watch. And it has an unlimited DVR that lets you save all the best stuff, like Yellowstone, of course, for a whole year. With Philo, you get more of what you love for less money and way less hassle. Now's the perfect time to get back in the saddle and start watching Yellowstone. Visit philo.tv to get started. That's PHILO.TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Connors. Went to Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar February 6, 2019. Nothing worked before. Left there and never smoked again. Amazing. Easy, affordable, and guaranteed. A year later, with my wife Michelle, attended Mark Patrick's weight loss seminar. She lost 18 pounds and I lost 43 in 8 weeks.
It's true. He smoked 2 packs a day and nothing worked until Mark Patrick hypnosis. Now we're losing weight together, eating healthy, full on half the food
food, crazy. Enjoying exercising. Who would have believed Mark Patrick hypnosis really works?
It's amazing. I can breathe again, my blood pressure went down, and I've got so much energy.
So much energy.
And look great.
Join Mark Patrick seminars, $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings. Seminars Thursday, January 12th. Holiday Inn Express and Suites, Pittsburgh and Green Tree at 875 Green Tree Road. Weight loss seminar 5:30. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m. Or Saturday, January 14th at the Doubletree Hotel, Monroeville Convention Center. Weight loss seminar 11 a.m. Stop smoking seminar 2 p.m. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
It's Marty Griffin. I have seen so much angst and anger these days that, you know what's overwhelmed me with joy and optimism? This Get Marty. The folks in this community that have stepped up. You can't help your neighbor if you hate your neighbor. Get Marty epitomizes that opportunity to help people, feed people, clothe people, educate people. If you need me, get Marty at KDKRadio.com. It's where we will find a way to help you.
Get Marty is brought to you by the Bowser Family Foundation. Matt Mertz Plumbing, now part of the Armstrong Comfort Solutions family. UPMC and Robert Pierce and Associates.
The KDKA AccuWeather forecast is brought to you by JP Roofing and Siding, Pittsburgh's #1 Platinum Preferred Roofing Replacement Contractor. Call 412-829-7711.
Cloudy tonight with areas of fog and spotty drizzle, low 46. Morning low clouds and fog tomorrow, otherwise cloudy, high 51. Couple of showers late tomorrow night, low 48. For AccuWeather, I'm meteorologist Carl Erickson, 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKA.
Good evening and welcome to Amplify, telephone talk show that looks at life from a religious perspective. I'm Father Ron Lingwin, hoping that you have felt the warmth of God's love in your life this day, but especially the joy you feel when you share that love with others. We have one of my special programs. Doesn't happen too often this way. In our calendar, in our liturgical calendar, there's usually a Sunday most of the time between Christmas and New Year's, unless those feasts fall on Sundays, as they did this year, which means there's no Sunday in between. On the Sunday in between, we, in the Catholic tradition, celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family and continue to reflect on 7 special days of Christmas, but Christmas season goes far beyond. So not only can I wish you a blessed New Year, I can continue to wish you a Merry Christmas also, a blessed Christmas. It was many years ago, maybe 35, 40 years ago, that I started a tradition. As you know, at the beginning of each program, I start with a kind of a platform to get us into the topic of the evening with the story of faith and imagination. And have a whole series of those, over 1,000 such stories by my good friends, you know, who died, Connie Valenti, just a few months ago. But among that collection, there were a lot of stories about the birth of Jesus and what Mary and Joseph were thinking. And they're the stories I typically told on that Sunday. Well, it's not in between, but I'm going to do it this Sunday. Today we celebrate the Feast of Mary, the Mother of God. Let me say a little bit about that. I was reading something today from a magazine that I get, a book that I get titled "Give Us This Day: Daily Prayer for Today's Catholics." And in it, Father Ronald Rollheiser, who was on our program once a number of years ago, wrote a reflection that I think will give us some insight to the stories of faith and imagination that I want to read eventually here. It's titled, "She's Our Mother Too." I'm just going to read a part of it. It's much longer, but want to read the part that really, I think, relates to our program tonight. He writes, God has no beginning, so how can God have a mother? Well, there's always been a Catholic logic in response to that. Again, our feast of, we're saying Mary, the Mother of God. And a lot of people don't understand what we mean by that, or may take it literally that we're saying God owes his life to Mary. That's not what we're saying at all. And this is what Father Rollheiser is explaining. God has no beginning, so how can God have a mother? Well, there's always been a Catholic logic in response to that. Here's the syllogism.
Do so again today from John chapter 6, the Bread of Life Discourse.
Mary is the Mother of God. Who really was Mary? Christian spirituality offers us two complementary versions of the Blessed Virgin, one from piety, the other from Scripture. The Mary of piety is the mother of devotions. Mary of the Rosary, which is grounded in Scripture, of Guadalupe and Lourdes and Fatima, of pilgrimages and shrines, of litanies and Marian devotions everywhere. She's the one whom millions upon millions turn to in their need, seeking the guidance, comfort, and sympathy of a mother. The Mary of piety is the rich mysticism of the poor and of the poor in spirit. The Mary of Scripture comes to us in two forms. In Matthew and Luke, she is presented as the model of discipleship. Yes, Mary is Jesus' mother, but she is the exemplary disciple, the one who is pregnant with God's word and who must faithfully carry the tension inherent in discipleship. Moreover, in Luke's gospel, she gives voice to how God ultimately responds to the powerlessness and the oppression of the poor. Outside of the Lord's Prayer, her Magnificat is the most precious prayer we have in the Gospels. But John's gospel gives Mary a different role. Here she is never called by her name, but is always called, quote-unquote, the mother of Jesus. For John, Mary is the new Eve, the mother of everyone. Jesus, the beloved disciple, you, me, and the world itself. And that is truly something to celebrate. And indeed, we are celebrating that. There's so much more that can be said about Mary. And there is still another article that I want to pull. There's an image of Mary in this same book written by a woman by the name of Mary de Torres Paust, where she talks about, where she writes about Mary. And she says, it's hard to look around at our world and not think we have lost all sense of the sacredness of life. From unborn babies who never get to take a first breath, and we've been seeing newborn babies on the news today. January 1st is always, they always pay some attention to the first new baby to be born in our area. From unborn babies who never get a chance to take a first breath, to people fleeing the indiscriminate bombing of their homeland, Ukraine, to students and concert goers and restaurant delivery men gunned down in the street. We had 3 policemen in New York that were attacked last night. To elderly people abandoned in nursing homes to die a slow and lonely death. As much as these stories garner the headlines in the media and perhaps in our own hearts and minds, the reality is that when we widen our view, seeking out beauty even amid the horrors, we begin to notice the small and loving actions taking place around us every day. These mundane miracles remind us that although we cannot change the world on a grand scale, we can change our world day by day through the power of the gospel that Jesus proclaimed and that we desire to follow. Always, everywhere, every day, we are challenged to come back to love, even when it would be easier to hate. We're called to live our lives not to the rhythm of the mob, be it on the social media or in the street, but to the steady beat of a heart that knows the only way to piece together this broken but beautiful world is through constant love in the face of sorrow and hatred, anger, and violence. And so there is so much that we can learn, and this reminds us about when we think about people who have died recently in our lives. And of course, you know, I have two people like that over the last year, died just a little bit of a year apart. Think about Mary. She lost her husband and she lost her son. And then she had John to care for her. Most of us, thankfully, gratefully, have someone else to care for us. But the images that we have of Mary are usually beautiful images, and yet, if we think about life as she lived it, she didn't always look that way. There were times when she would have struggled to feed her son, to see what was happening to her son in so many ways. And so there are many different images of Mary that we have, from the glorious ones to the ones where, as a human being, she struggled with life in so many different ways. And we are told that Mary continued to reflect on the birth of her son, as I reflect on such people in my life who have died. And she held many thoughts in her heart. If I could look into your heart, what would I find? Are there things about life or yourself that you do not understand? I think each of us can look back, if we take the time over this past year, and recall moments when life touched us deeply, perhaps even events when our faith was tested, when we wondered how God could allow such things to happen to us and claim to love us at the same time. I heard a talk show host talking about that, raising that very question. Why do we turn to God in prayer and nothing happens? Well, January gets its name from the Roman pagan god Januarius, who had two heads back to back with their eyes looking in opposite directions. It's from this representation that the custom of New Year's resolution began. And that means we look back at how we performed this past year. How did we live? What did we do? And we look forward at the same time on how we can improve. And Mary probably went through that same exercise, looked back at her life, to what life was like when Joseph was with her and when their son was with her. But we have to look back and be grateful for the good that occurred and not to repeat perhaps any mistakes that we may have made. We talk about how quickly life is passing. Certainly life is too short to continue to live the life of a fool, to continue foolish behavior. And there may be some things we wish we had never said, some things we wish we had never done, but we must not live our lives in the past. We can learn from the past, certainly, but remorse is useless and only prevents us from doing what God wants us to do today. So we can look at yesterday, and we must at times, of course, because there's much to learn from it. But we must not allow that to prevent us from doing what God wants us to do today. And so it's appropriate to honor Mary, I believe, as the Mother of God on the same day that we celebrate a new year, because with Mary, the human race was given another chance. And all of us would like another chance at so many different moments in life. And Mary then becomes a source of hope, who shows us through what she went through that we can overcome life's struggles when especially when we have faith in God's love. What can you say about the amount of faith that you have in God's love? What have you done? What have I done with the precious gift of life given to us? And so there is a sense in which the new year is a time of great responsibility and also great opportunity at the same time. It's a time to give our life to God and do what is right and what is good. And so what do you expect to happen in this new year? What do you hope will happen in this new year? There's not much of which we can be certain about in the mystery of life, which we expect. I didn't expect a lot of the things that happened in my life to happen. Mary lived that way and could live that way, not always knowing what to expect, but because of her faith in God, because of her faith in her Son, she is a model for all of us, and that's why we honor her today as the Mother of God. And so I believe that this new year, we have another chance at being better and therefore doing better and understanding better. We have hope as we face the future because God is always looking for new ways, giving us new ways to improve us with his love, with all the opportunities. Sometimes it takes faith. Well, many times, if not all times, it takes faith, but it also takes a little bit of imagination, because Mary helped to bring God's love and life to us and shows us that we too can bear the love of God and we can bring it to others. If Mary brought it to us, she gave it to us as her Son gave it to her so that we may give it to one another. And we do that when we find meaning and true happiness because we know God by loving God. So you know a whole lot about what I believe about imagination, so I don't think I have to explain that again, but stories of faith and imagination, what we believe and what that belief can tell us about ourselves, about God, what it can tell us about life. And so I'm going to begin a story of faith and imagination. An angel said, "I do not understand. Why does Mary cry so hard and so soon after her son's birth? Her tears seem to be composed of sorrow rather than of joy." And he stared at Mary, whose tears continue to fall upon Jesus as she held him lovingly in her arms, newborn. An older, wiser angel said, "Shush, be silent, just watch. Perhaps she can already see within him the gentle marks rubbed on his face during his birth. See the cruel and savage marks that will cover his body in death." It was just at that moment then that Joseph reached over and touched his son's hand, looked proudly into his eyes and said, "I accept you and I love you as my son, and you shall bear my name." Many foster fathers, foster parents have done that. With tears still streaming from her eyes, Mary said as gently as she could, no, Joseph, he shall be named Jesus." Sadness struck quickly and painfully at Joseph's heart. With a firm and strong voice, he said, "So be it. His name shall be Jesus." But he didn't raise his eyes from Jesus, fearing Mary might see the disappointment and the tears that filled them. And once again, the smaller angel said to the larger one, "Is the child's mother giving him the correct name? After all, it is Joseph who will raise him and provide for him." The older and wiser angel responded, "It is the right name, the one he should be given. It shall be spoken many times upon the earth, in both good times and bad. And I tell you this, when he begins to speak, people will remember his words. And the tears his mother sheds now are nothing compared to those that will fall from her eyes when he dies. And then that angel, that little angel, began to sing. And one by one, other angels began to join him until a great chorus had formed, filling every corridor in the heavens with beautiful music. I wonder if we will hear the same thing someday. Its warmth reached the earth and filled Mary's heart, easing her sadness and pain. She began to hum softly to her son, not knowing what was going on even in heavens at the same time. And the clouds opened above the stable, and the stars seemed to sparkle and glow at the same time, bringing light into a world filled with so much darkness. The darkness especially of man's not caring about one another, certainly not caring about God. And you and I could certainly think of examples of that even today, as was able to happen in the past. And a beautiful and powerful angel who had watched from afar, but who had said nothing, appeared suddenly at the side of the two angels and said, "The heavens cast their light upon him now, but he truly is the light of the world, a light that man will take long to fully understand. Spiritual darkness disperses at his sight, and even at the mention of his name." And so if we look long enough, that light can be found not only in Mary's eyes, but I believe in the eyes of every woman who has borne a child, or even a woman who has not borne a child, because of the motherly instinct that is placed in every woman. And that's because I believe that God has created women with a special blessing, knowing that one would someday bring his son into the world. So I've seen that in two special women, and more, of course, but they were the two I was closest to. I'm sure you can see it in the same thing in the women you know and have been a part of your life, beginning with your mother, your grandparents, or even more than that. We do remember his words, and we do join in music in a way that is a blessing to us, that enables us to draw even closer to God at a time when it is needed.
From the Aetna Medicare Advantage Studios,
Pittsburgh's news, weather, and traffic station. News Radio.
CBS News Brief. At least 2 people have died in major floods in California. KOVR-TV's Curtis Ming is in Sacramento, where sections of Highway 99 are closed.
About 9:13 last night, word came that the levee was going to breach, and it did overnight. It breached in 2 different locations in the Cosumnes River, and that's why we've had this dramatic flooding.
Congressman-elect George Santos will be sworn in Tuesday. He's under investigation for lying about his background. Texas Representative Kevin Brady on Fox.
I think this is troubling in so many ways. Certainly he has lied repeatedly. At the end of the day, though, this is a decision, whether he resigns or stays, that needs to be made between he and the voters who elected him.
CBS's Christian Benavides.
On Tuesday, the House is expected to vote on a new speaker. California Representative Kevin McCarthy is hoping to secure enough support to take the position.
CBS News Brief, I'm Wendy Gillette.
The following is a test of the emergency alert system. Is testing its emergency alert system equipment. The EAS will provide timely emergency warnings. This station serves the Pittsburgh Extended Operational Area. This concludes this emergency alert system test.
Hi, I'm Pennsylvania Secretary of Agriculture Russell Redding. Whether you're looking for turkeys, trees, or traditions, great food and agricultural products are made right here in Pennsylvania. Look for the check mark and pick PA Preferred. It's fresh and local, and it supports Pennsylvania farmers. Visit papreferred.com to find out more. PA Preferred, rooted in Pennsylvania. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
As full-time working moms, we have a lot to handle. That's why